Okay, so we are continuing with the teaching of the Devarim of Nachum of Chernobyl, Parshat Devarim. Okay, this week is Shabbos Chazon, and he's in the mood. He gets us into the mood of Geula and redemption and what the Beis Hamikdash is not here for, how to fix that, and. What's interesting is that it talks a lot about speech. He starts analyzing speech and how speech is connected to da'at. Da'at means understanding, and basically the main theme of this teaching, of this Torah in the Devarim is about how the only thing you need in life is da'at, is to have understanding, and that is the key to Geula. That is the key to redemption. It's really everything. Everything is dependent on your understanding, bringing your understanding to its complete form, and being able to understand things properly. And if you're able to understand things properly, then you are redeemed. And everything else is going to follow suit. It's all the battles that we need to fight in our life. They're all in our head. Okay, there's something we've spoken on this before that Rabbi Nachman writes, that all of the suffering in the world is because of lack of doubt. It's because of lack of understanding. That he says even physical pain is because we have a certain expectation that things should be the way they're not supposed to be.
Do you remember in which Torah he writes this?
I don't remember offhand, but he says that if when we hurt ourselves, so eventually we get used to the pain, right? So why? Because the first day, so you're expecting your hand to feel the same way it felt yesterday. So it hurts because of that dissonance between where it is and where you think it should be. And after enough times, you get used to the reality, and you become you realize that this is the way it is. So once you realize this is the way it is, it doesn't hurt so much, right? So really, even physical pain is because of lack of da'at. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, so there's a story with Rebbe Melech Medezhensk that one of his students asked him, Rebbe, there were so many, when you were by the Maggid, there was you, there was the Balatanya, there was Zusha, there's the huge the Abdurav, there's such huge tzaddikim that how could you not bring Mashiach? How could you have just let history go on? Why didn't you just do something about this? And so Rabbi Elimelech's Talmidim asked Rabbi Elimelech, and so he said, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but when we were by the Maggid, it was so good. Life was so good when we were by the Maggid. It was like we forgot that we were in Galus. We forgot that things weren't. It was just, everything was just so perfect. They're oh my gosh, I forgot that we're not in the Kodesh HaKodashim and the Yerushalayim. It was they were in their mindset. They were redeemed. They were completely redeemed. So the everything is really, it all starts in your head. It's all that how much das we have, how much understanding we have, really makes the biggest difference in redemption, and so this week the Torah of the Devarim is really how to bring das into our lives, and how that's really going to be the solution to all of our problems. So he starts with a medrash that it's on the pasuk at the beginning of the parsha. It says Eila hadvarim asher diber Moshe al kol Yisrael. That these are the words that Moshe spoke to the Jewish people. And the truth is, the entire book of Devarim, the entire Deuteronomy, is a long speech that Moshe Rabbeinu gave. This is right before he's passed away, that this is his last hurrah, his last will and testament. And so the Medrash says an interesting thing. It says that when he started talking, I don't know if he started talking when he, maybe some couple of hours into his monologue, so they say, whoa, Moshe, but don't you remember that you said Lo ish dvarim anochi, that like you told Hashem, like, I'm not a man of words. Like when Hashem wanted him to be the leader of the Jewish people at the burning bush. So he said, like, sorry God, like I can't do it. I can't speak. Like I'm kvad peh. I have like speech impediment. And so Hashem said, no worries, it's okay. You don't have to speak. I'll make Aaron will be your speaker, and you just have to. And but that was your thing. Like you were so into the fact that you're not a speaker, and they're like, what the heck? You're going like you're going on 6 hours already, 7 hours already, and like what happened to your speech impediment? That so the Chazal comment on this. Amar Yitzchak, kishatak kvad peh shana et Torah v'hitra peh, k'mo sheMoshe lamad es Torah b'midbar. That if you're a kvad peh, if you have a speech impediment, so learn Torah, and then you will be healed. Okay, it's very interesting. You know, it's the truth is that stuttering is healable, and it's something that it's not. I don't know. It's not like there's no. You don't need antibiotics. It's not something that's like wrong with your muscles. It's really in your brain, and therefore the das is actually what makes the difference in being able to speak properly. Right? When I was a kid, I had a very not that it wasn't like I've seen many worse stutters, but I had a stutter to the point that it really bothered me, and it would come up often, and I would just whatever. I was always like embarrassed. I was like scared it was going to pop up, and when I least wanted to, it always does that, because like when you least want it to pop up when you're anxious, and that's exactly when it pops up. So it's the fact that the being anxious makes the stutter worse, and so that what's the opposite of being anxious? Being at peace, right? So that does when everything is okay. So then you're not going to like the kvad peh, the speech impediment just goes away. So that's what Moshe Rabbeinu went through, because what happened between that first meeting at the burning bush and now, what's the big event that happened? He got the Torah. And he got the Torah. He was teaching Torah. So the more that the Torah became part of him, so the more he became full of das. So the more he became full of das, so his speech impediment simply just melted away. Okay? And that's what happened over here. So yeah.
So less he became full of himself, more full of Hashem, or not?
We'll get to it. Good evening. So he explains like this, that it says that b'chol dor v'dor chayav adam lerot et atzmo ki'ilu yatz mitzrayim. In every generation, so everybody has to always see themselves as if they personally left Egypt. And this should sound familiar to you from the Haggadah. Okay, we say this in the Haggadah every year. So how do we do that? How do we do it? How do we make a present Yetzias Mitzrayim? How do we have a modern day Yetzias Mitzrayim? So he says that in order to do that, you have to become a Kabbalist. Okay, because it says in the Zohar that the idea of being in exile in Egypt was actually galut hada'at. It was actually the exile of their da'at, that they didn't have. There's like a term in like modern Hasidic like culture that they have mochen. I don't have mochen. I'm like mochen literally means brains, right? But what does it mean not to have mochen? It means like that there's different kinds of mochen. There's a higher conscious level of thought, and there's a lower conscious level of thought. And there's basically a mature thought process and an immature process. So mochen de gadlut is having an adult brain, is being able to see things from a perspective, being able to say things from a broader view, and being able to see things deeply, being able to look at the essence of things. And the opposite is mochen de katnus, is having a children's brain. So that's looking at the here and now, looking at the superficial, and so in Yetzias Mitzrayim, so there was an exile of the das, and And so they didn't know how to serve Hashem. They didn't know how to connect with Hashem with real das. Okay, so that's what it says that the Mitzrayim can be divided into Meitzar Yam. The Yam represents the flow. Right? The Yam is the ocean. It goes on, and Meitzar is the boundary. It makes gvulot. So Meitzar Yam is that Mitzrayim is that you take something that's meant to be great and flowing and amazing, and you put it into a cookie cutter. You put it into katnus. Okay, you put it into it's very cramped, and it can't feel free. It can't be free. It can't think like it should. Okay, so what's it mean? What's it mean to have das? So, and this is like the way that we're supposed to connect with God is called das. He brings a pasuk that says da et Elokei avicha. Know the God of your fathers. You should know the God of your ancestors. Okay, so like parenthetically, that any time that we're learning about God, so we're fulfilling this mitzvah to a certain extent. That there's an positive thing to know about God, to know who is this person that we're serving, who is this being that we're serving. That it's like a katnos, a small-brained mentality is that who cares who God is? That I know that He's the boss. I know that I have to listen to Him. So, like, who cares? Like, is Gehenna going to be any less hot if I knew who God was? Like, what's that have to do with anything? Like, the point is the same. So, the Torah says that no, that there's something messed up in your Judaism if you don't know who God is, right? And I see this all the time because people have a messed up version of God. So then it's the worst. It's like in my eyes, it's the worst sin. It's the worst sin in the entire Torah to make God into somebody that He's not, especially when you're making Him into like a tyrant, making Him into like this like angry Lord that like zaps the people that don't listen to Him. I remember I was saying this to somebody recently that there's a good amount of Muslim boxers, right? I've said this here. Now that like boxers, like Muhammad Ali was Muslim. There's and today there's a famous guy that what's his name?
They're from they're Chechen, right? They're from
yeah, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, so Khabib, yeah. So there, you don't hear about Jewish boxers, right? What's up with that, right? So I realized, you know why? Because in the Islam, God is a God that's into bam. Like if you don't listen to me, so then like you're finished. Like if you do any harams, I'm gonna zap you, and so when they are beating their wives, they're being like God when they're or they're going into backstabbing, right? So they're emulating Allah, and because that's the kind of religion that it is. That's the kind of God that they look up to, and the truth is that that's the whole concept of Islam. The word Islam means subordinates. Like it's about there's this scary God that you just need to be said yes sir, and in Judaism it's quite the opposite. In Judaism, God isn't looking for subordinates as much as He's looking for a relationship. He wants connection. And if you're going to just be a yes sir kind of Jew, so then like Hashem says okay, hello, but I want to spend time with you. Like where's our relationship? That's the whole mitzvah of Shabbos is that Hashem wants to have special time with us. He wants to that He appreciates us as people, and He wants to be with us. So it's a very different mindset. Okay, so da et Elokei avicha. So that's why it's important to understand God, because even if you do everything right, but if your concept of God is messed up, so then your entire Judaism is messed up. But the Chernobyl says that not only that, but even in the word da, so this is actually implied. Why? Because what is the essence of the word das? So he brings a pasuk in Parshat Bereshit that it says, "Vayeda Adam et Chava ishto vayoled eshet." that Vayoladet Kain, that it says that Adam knew, quote unquote, his wife, and she gave birth to Cain. So so obviously the word yada in that context is a reference to physical intimacy, right? So what does that imply? So he says that physical intimacy implies, number one, connection, and number two, pleasure. So the Marinaim says that those are the two things that da'as, the true da'at, true understanding of something, requires A, connection, and B, pleasure. Okay? So that if you don't feel close to somebody, then you don't know them. Okay? And so that, like, having knowledge, having da'at of something or someone. So if you don't feel close to them, then you didn't begin to know them. Okay? And number two, if you don't enjoy their presence, then you don't know them. You don't get them. Okay? Right, this is really the whole reason why we hate people. It's because we don't get them, right? If we would really get them, then we would stop hating them. Right? This is so there's the world. There's nobody bad. There's just the people that we don't understand. Okay? So we can even like we can incorporate this into our jargon. Like it's a good, like, instead of saying that he's a bad person, to say I don't understand him. It's a much nicer way. It's a much nicer way of going about life. And the truth is that if you would understand that, the truth is that like the people say, like, there's no such thing as a bad person. There's hurt people, there's lost people, there's frustrated people, but there's no bad people. And so if we would get them, if we would understand where they're coming from, so then we would like them a little bit more. Okay? So da et Elokei Avicha, to know the God of your ancestors, implies that you're connected to him, and B, that you have ta'anug, that you have pleasure. You have pleasure from this connection.
I mean, I see how the whole knowing and connection comes with that, but where's the pleasure coming from?
Where's the pleasure coming from?
Yeah. Like, how is it implied in that?
No, it implies from Vayeda Adam as Chavishta. It's from the fact that we use the word da'at for physical intimacy, and that's a basic part of physical intimacy. So that implies that true da'at has pleasure. So we've gotten to the point that in order to really have da'at of God, if you have understanding of God, then you are in love with God, and you just get pleasure from his presence. So this is something we've spoken about at different times, that having connection to God is actually the most pleasant experience that you can possibly have in this world. Right? So now he says that how does this so how do you get there? So how do you get there? So he brings an interesting contradiction that the Gemara asks, and the Gemara says that in one place it says Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, to serve Hashem with happiness, and the other place it says that Ivdu et Hashem b'yira, that serve Hashem with fear. Okay, so how do we reconcile this contradiction? So the Gemara says that if you look at the second pasuk, it says that v'gilu b'ra'ada, that you should rejoice with trembling, meaning that even when you're rejoicing, so there should be trembling. So it means that, like, in somewhere it's supposed to be together. Somewhere it's supposed to be together. So how do these two things come together? Okay, so it explains like this, that it says Reshit Chachma Yirat Hashem. What's it mean, Reshit Chachma? This is also, you should be familiar because it's in the beginning of the Siddur. That Reshit Chachma Yirat Hashem is that the beginning of wisdom, meaning the beginning of our journey, is Yirat Hashem, is fear of God. So that has to be the beginning. Why is the first step? Why is the first step to a relationship with God the fear of God? So the truth is that I don't like the word fear, as I don't think that fear is an accurate translation of yirah, because fear has a negative connotation. Like we fear dangerous people and things, right? We fear people who can beat us up. We fear people who can get us in trouble. We feel like things that are going to hurt us in general are the things that we fear. So it doesn't make it like there's no example of a good person that you fear. So it's just a bad, like obviously it doesn't imply that God is in any way dangerous, in any way bad. So just the word fear is just a bad translation. So what does it really mean, yirah? So yirah really means respect. It really means respect. That respect is for good people have they carry respect with them. That when an amazing person, a powerful person, walks in, so they carry respect. That you're not going to mess with them. You're not going to mess with them, not because you have fear from them, but because their power is something that just demands. Now, so in the Hasidic Svarim, it says that actually there's two levels. There's two levels to yirah. That there's lower yirah and higher yirah. The higher yirah they call awe. Okay, but the lower yirah is yirah of onesh, yirah from the punishment. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that yirat haramamot, which is awe, and the lower yirah is yirat onesh, that yirah which is coming from the punishments. Okay, so what does it mean, the punishments? That if you mess up, then there's going to be repercussions, right? So that's what we're talking about. Right? The lower level of yirah, which is based on punishments, so that I don't want to call fear, I want to call that respect. Okay, meaning that you have an amazing job, and you have a great boss, and you know that if you consistently don't keep up to his expectations from you, you know you're going to lose your job. And it's not because he's mean, and it's not because he's dangerous. It's just like that's just the way it is, because you have a great job, and the repercussions is that if you don't live up to the expectations of your job, then you're going to get fired. So it's nothing to do with, it's not fear. You're not afraid of your boss. You respect the fact that these are the rules. So the yirah that we're talking about is respect. So the Maranayim says that the basic, the fundamental thing in Judaism is actually this respect for the reality of Torah. Okay, and you'll think about it. It's really true that usually respect is it's not obviously, it doesn't come in a second. It doesn't come overnight, and the first step, the first entrance into Judaism is not going to be respect. You're not going to just from not believing in God, you're not going to just say yes sir, whatever. I'm suddenly scared that if I don't follow, I'm gonna It doesn't work like that. It's a gradual process. It starts by seeing the beauty of Judaism. It starts by seeing how much a person has to gain from a certain way of life, but the thing is that on the journey, I've seen this many times, that on a person's journey, it starts that they start keeping Shabbat like once in a while. Like when they go on a Shabbaton, then they start keeping Shabbat. Okay, and then they start doing it when it works out. If their Shomer Shabbat friends are around, then they'll keep Shabbat with them. And then it becomes a little bit more. And then they say, okay, I could do this. I could try it like one week at a time. Okay, but if my friends invite me to the beach next week, so then, okay, so this week not. Okay, but I'm pretty good. 3 out of 4 is amazing, right? And at some point, it's very, very subtle. It's a very, very subtle transition. At some point, they realize that, I actually believe in this. That it's no longer just a thing I do, but rather it's what I am. So, and that's they didn't notice it happening. It happens just under the skin. That until now they're so that change. That is the moment of yirah. That is the moment that this is a reality that I want to respect. Okay, and it's like as long as you're just doing it because it's fun, so then you're really just playing with Judaism. Then you're really just like a spectator, like trying to pretending. I'm not saying it's pretending, but you actually haven't begun serving God until you make this inner transition that yes, I actually believe in this, and I'm not doing this because it's fun. I'm doing this because I actually believe it's the right thing to do. Okay, so that's what it means that Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem, that the first step in actual service of God is the Yirah, is having this respect, which means that having the understanding that this is the reality. Okay, so that's the first step. So after I have this respect, so then that brings me the da'at. Then that brings me that it allows me to really understand it in a deeper way. Because when as long as something is external, as long as something is I'm admiring something from afar, so then I'm not really going to understand it, right? That whenever you're going through something, it's like you understand it in a deeper way, right? Like this is everything that we go through. So, like if you're going through a loss, if you're there, then you suddenly you start thinking about death, and you have all these things about these epiphanies about death that if you're going through a breakup, so then you suddenly understand things about breakups. You understand things about relationships, understand about, and like when you're when you're in love, then you understand things about love, and whenever you're going through something, so that's when you understand it. So it's only until you have the Yirat Hashem that you're going to have the Da'at, right? So the real Da'at, the real understanding of Torah can actually only come once it's actually part of who you are. Okay, so this is the deep understanding of how wonderful Judaism is. You can only understand once you're in it. Okay, and this is what some people explain. There's a pasuk that says, "Ta'amu u're'u ki tov Hashem," that taste and see how good Hashem is. What does it mean? What does it mean, like to taste it and then see? I mean, like that's first, like just jump in. Like don't like some people say like I'm not going to do it until I understand what I'm doing. And sometimes it's not going to work like that. Sometimes you won't understand it until you do it. It doesn't. No, I think it's like using chopsticks for sushi, right? You see I see every week there's like these guys that never did it before, so they're like, no, why can't you just have a fork? Just try it, and then you'll see. So sometimes the das only comes after the yira. Okay, once you're there, once it's a part of you, then you can really understand, and then once you understand, once you have the das of something, then you have the ta'anuk, then you have the pleasure. And then everything is just so much more meaningful. Then it adds so much to your life. The fact that once you understand it, so then there's sweetness. Then there's sweetness in it. Okay, so when I really understand how amazing it is, every word of Torah that I'm learning, if I understand how deeply it's cleansing me on my soul, if I would understand how it's fixing the higher spiritual worlds, if I would, like even simple things, even like if I would think about how it's actually helping my marriage when I'm taking out the garbage, so then I would be dancing. I would have to make sure that it would stay closed, but I would be dancing on the way to the garbage. Like it was like the more that we understand how valuable things are, so the more we enjoy it. So this is the so the das is what brings ta'anuk. Okay. So Rav Nachman Chernobyl says that where does this das come from? So he brings a pasuk. It says, "Ki pi Hashem diber." forgot he brings at the beginning of the pasuk. Kipi Hashem diber. So what does it mean? What does it mean? Kipi Hashem diber. So literally it means that through my mouth Hashem is speaking. Through my mouth Hashem is speaking. So he says, what does it mean through my mouth Hashem is speaking? That the greatest das that a person could have in his life is to know that every time I open my mouth, so tzarich sheyeda ki piv hamedaber diburim hu mamash piv yitbarach shehu chelak Hashem mamash. That once I commit myself to living aligned with God, so then the words that come out of my mouth are the words of God. Okay, it's pretty wild. Okay, that I commit to living according to God's will, and then as a result of that, the words that come out of my mouth are going to be the words of God. And when I realize this, then that is the highest da'at that I could possibly reach in this lifetime, and then I'm going to enjoy life in a much deeper way. Okay, this is how he explains the pasuk in Tehillim that we say at the beginning of the Amidah. It says, Hashem sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tilatach. Hashem, open my lips, and my mouth will speak your praises. Okay, so this is like a reference to that I just need to open my lips, and the words are coming out themselves. Okay, I think I've mentioned this before that this concept is something that Chernobyl mentioned in his publishing of this book, because he writes that his students would write down all of his teachings, that he would teach these teachings on Shabbos, and then they would write them down after Shabbos, and they would bring them to him, and so he only published the Torahs that he didn't remember saying. He only published the Torahs that he didn't recall saying, because he said that if I remember saying it, that means that my mind was involved. That means that I was there. If I don't remember saying it, that means that I was just in a trance. That means that it was just the words of God coming out being channeled through my mouth. And those are the higher Torahs. That the Torahs that I thought of with my own brain, so then that's not so important. That's not so impressive. But I only want to share the Torahs that I was uninvolved. Okay, so. And his context over here, so that's the Torah of that. That's the Torah. When I become so just one with God, that I recognize that everything that's coming out is simply God speaking through me. So that then I'm there. Then I've reached the level of that to understand that I am simply a function of God. Okay, and this is what we were talking about before, of that. The difference between the people that are talking at you and talking with you, right? That a person who's talking at you, so he's the person that says, I have the information and let me teach you a thing or two. Whereas a person who's talking with you, so I'm like, we're getting this together. It's coming down. It's coming down. Let's listen. Let's listen to what Hashem has to say today. So this is the highest level of das. The highest level of das in a person's communications, in a person's. Now, I'll have to say, like, with humility, that, like, I don't think this is. I believe that there is something to the other people too. I think that he was saying that this is the way he experienced life. I can say this is the way I experience life, and I do. But I don't mean to disqualify people like who are professional teachers, professional speakers, and like I think it's actually abnormal that, like, on a regular basis I have no idea what I'm going to teach until a half a second before I say it. So like, I'm not going to, like, discredit, like, your more conventional teachers, but the Marinayim is connecting with this kind of teaching that I actually don't know what I'm about to say, and it's just coming down, and let's hear what Hashem has to say today. Okay, so he says that when you're doing so then it's really much greater things that can come down. You're making yourself vulnerable for greater Torahs. When you're able to let go, to let go of what I was thinking, and just let myself just. And there's always a downside. When you do that, so you don't get to test everything out to make sure that it's 1,000%. But on the other side, so some of the most amazing things come just like spur of the moment. And this is, like I said, this is my entire life. That the most amazing things just only come down before I don't know, how did I think of that? In fact, the truth is, sometimes I listen to recordings of myself, and I'm so impressed. Wow, he's so. How did he say? How did I know that? Pass me the water. Pass me the water.
When the person has a previous knowledge, because if the person without that knowledge will try to do that, then there can be lots of shtuyot, no?
I don't know. Give it a try. I mean, not you. Somebody else who doesn't have knowledge. So he says that there's an amazing thing. There's an amazing thing that we can understand based on this. It says that tzaddik Moshe b'yiras Elokim. Okay, the pasuk says in Mishlei that a tzaddik is Moshe. Tzaddik has dominion through his yiras Hashem, and tzaddik Moshe b'yiras Elokim. The tzaddik has memshala. He has control. So the Chazal say, what's it mean he has control? It means he has control over God. Meaning that tzaddik goes there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mekayim. That whatever the tzaddik says, so Hashem will listen to him. Okay, this is the idea of getting brachas from tzaddikim, that the tzaddik can make a decree that you're going to have a kid, whatever, and then it comes true. Okay. I just read something. Just read this crazy story. I'm reading this book. It's also relevant to stuttering. This book. It's called All the Days of My Life by Aharon Margalit. Okay, in Hebrew it's Et Halech. He wrote it in Hebrew, but then it was translated to English by Feldheim. And it's an amazing story about this. He's alive. He's a public speaker. That he had polio when he was a kid, and he was completely paralyzed from the neck down, and besides the fact that he had a horrible stutter, and he was one of the worst cases, and he was able to overcome it. He was able to walk. He was able to get out of a wheelchair, and he was able to you would never know. He went back to it was called the sanitarium, where he was kept, where he was these kids that they were just rocks. They couldn't even they would leave them on slats of metal, like it looked inhumane, and just there was, but it was just the best that they could do, because they had hundreds of kids, and they couldn't move because they were completely paralyzed, so there was no concern that they're going to roll over. So they don't. It's very so he came visiting 50 years later, and they said, no, you can't. You weren't here. I couldn't. Only the worst cases came here. You're a healthy person. I says, nope, I was here. Not only that, but I was one of your worst cases. And they looked him up, and it was very and he had friends that he remembered that were still alive from 50 years ago. They were still paralyzed. They were still there. It was very, very, very crazy. So anyway, when he was a baby, so he got some horrible horrible fever, some horrible illness, and maybe it was polio itself. I don't remember. His mother ran to Reb Aaron Belzer, and Reb Aaron of Belzer. So Reb Aaron Rukech, and she asked him for a bracha, and she said, it was like she came after hours, and she ran over to and she was crying, and she said, I need a bracha, and she said, Shever for Shlema, and she said, no, Rebbe, I need you to give me a promise. You give me a promise that he's going to be better. And he's like, and she's like, she's just so crying, and somehow he was quiet for was quiet for like 10 seconds, and like he did something, and he said, "Okay, he's gonna be better." And like she came home, and like she's jumping for joy, and sure enough, a couple of days later, he was out of mortal danger. And so tzaddikim have this energy that tzaddikim can change Hashem's plans. Okay, so the Zohar, like you think the Zohar is into these things, right? But the Zohar actually thinks this is problematic. The Zohar says, what? Like whose side are you on? Like Mr. Tzaddik, like aren't you tzaddik because you're on Hashem's side? Like what are you doing? Like Hashem said he's supposed to die, so you listen to the rules. So the Moranim says that this is the answer, that because the tzaddik recognizes that the words that come out of his mouth are actually God speaking, so then we're on the same team. It's just like this cosmic ping pong game of like the sparks from here, but it's really that there is no other side. That because the tzaddik recognizes that he is simply a function of God, so Hashem is saying, oh, actually, he can get better. It's okay. And so this is the das of understanding that Hashem is speaking through you. Okay. So he finishes off this Torah by explaining that this is the essence of Shabbos. This is the essence of Shabbos, and that's why it says that Shabbos is about das. Shabbos is about having a deep understanding that, because it says that the du'u ki Hashem natan lachem hashabbat, that says the Torah uses the word das to understand that Hashem has given you Shabbos, because on Shabbos, so we reach a higher level of understanding about life. Like on Shabbos, things just make more sense. Like things that seemed messed up the whole week. So on Shabbos, our consciousness is elevated, and we're able to understand things from a better perspective, from a truer perspective, and like we're able to understand, like I don't know, like sometimes like in terms of like what we want with our life, in terms of like there's things that we know are bad for us, but we do it anyway. And we convince ourselves that, come on, but it's fun. Come on, like I need it. Come on, that's called not having das, right? That having das means that, yes, this is so clear to me. This is really the right thing. And like some of my greatest breakthroughs, where it came to me, like I go to the kotel, like in the middle of the night on Friday night. And that's my happy place. That's when like things make sense. Then like things that like I'm able to really connect, like to understand life in a true way. Okay, like and Shabbos has this ability to help us connect to the truths that we know intuitively, just like it didn't penetrate yet. So on Shabbos we're able to really understand it, really connect to it, and then to connect to the ideas. So then we're actually able to enjoy the ideas, and we're actually to, like if you know something, if you know something intellectually, but you hate it, right? That I know that I'm not supposed to be going to this place. I know that I'm not supposed to be hanging out with this person. I know that I'm not supposed to be doing this, right? And so I don't do it, but I hate it. I go crazy at the fact that I can't do this. So that means you don't understand. Because if you would understand, then you would love it. If you would understand, then you would just say, wow, I'm so fortunate that I'm not going to this place, that I really look at them with pity, that that's what they're doing, that they're just wasting away their lives. Like, how can you, like, don't you realize that you're going to end up tomorrow morning and you're going to come to me and you said, I can't believe it, Natalia, I was so stupid again. And so like we're the ones that get it. So because we understand, because we have das, so we actually enjoy this lifestyle. We enjoy the fact that and if we don't enjoy it, that means we don't understand it. That means we don't have this das. So on Shabbos is all about das. Okay? So because Shabbos is all about das, So that's why on Shabbos our speech is also elevated, and that's why it says that one of the halachas of Shabbos is that to have special speech. Okay, to have that loya diborcha b'Shabbos ki diborcha b'chol, that there's things you're not allowed to speak about. You're not allowed to speak about business things. You're not allowed to speak about preparing for after Shabbos. That there's a certain Shabbos talk. Okay, and the reason why our speech is elevated on Shabbos is because our das is elevated on Shabbos, and because our das is elevated on Shabbos and our speech is elevated on Shabbos, so that's why there's a mitzvah of Oneg Shabbat. That's why on Shabbos is the one time that there's a mitzvah to enjoy. There's a mitzvah to enjoy life, to enjoy herring, to enjoy gefilte fish. So seriously, there's a mitzvah to enjoy life because when your das is where it's supposed to be, so then the natural result is that you're supposed to enjoy yourself. So that's why Oneg is built into the system. The Oneg is part of the mitzvah of Shabbos. So this is why it says that Shabbos also has the ability to heal. It says that we say on Shabbos that Shabbati miluzok refuah krova lava, that it's through the fact that we have das. So then that when things are aligned in our brains, so then the natural result is that they are also aligned in the body. Okay, and like healing comes from das as well, and that's also why that on Shabbos it's like Mashiach is here. It's like it's a taste of the world to come. It's a taste of Mashiach, a taste of redemption, and that's what the Gemara says that there's an opinion in the Gemara. We don't pass on like this, but there's an opinion that says that the Rebbe says that if Tisha B'av would fall out on Shabbos, so he wanted to just make it that there's no Tisha B'av. You don't have to fast on Sunday, because through the understanding of Shabbos, through the das of Shabbos, so then you actually undid the Churban, you undid the destruction, and you reach the level of Tikkun, you reach the level of Mashiach. Okay, so this is what happened. This is what happened to Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is how the Moshe Rabbeinu they came to him and they said, like, what's going on? You're talking so much. You're talking so much, and so the difference is that he was a kvad peh. He had a speech impediment at the beginning of his career, but through learning Torah, through getting the Torah, through giving the Torah, through connecting to Torah, so what got fixed? He got fixed his da'at, like his understanding of life. And the more that he had an understanding of life, so then there was no more room for a speech impediment. That it was no longer me speaking, and once it's no longer me speaking, so then there's no anxiety. Okay? So then, of course, if Hashem is going to speak through us, so then there's nothing to be like this. This is really true. You know, like when you're like if I have to think of what I have to say, so then I can be nervous. But if I'm just allowing Hashem to speak through me, so then I don't have to be nervous, because I know that whatever is going to come out is exactly what was supposed to come out. Okay?
Unless you're nervous that Hashem will speak through me. Unless. So
then you're losing das. Yeah. If you have das, then you'll know that Hashem is speaking through you. So this is what happens. This is what happens. This is Parshat. And this is, I think, a very, very, very critical teaching. Everything is about that. Everything is in our minds. Everything is in our consciousness. Like there's a famous saying in Chabad, that trach good, wird sein good. That if you think good, it'll be good. And this is really that's really the summary of this Torah. That it's really all about your das. If you have a mature das, if you really are connected to the reality, then you will enjoy the reality that you're in. Then everything will be sweet, and everything will work out. So this is ultimately what's going to bring Mashiach. The more that we're able to fill ourselves with das, the more that we're able to really understand that how to make peace, to embrace reality for what it's for. That all of the friction in life is all because we have this dissonance between where we should be going and where we think where we think we're going, and like when we're thinking too much, and I want to bring my life to here, and like the truth is that Hashem keeps on bringing us the other way, and this is where all the pain comes from. This is where all the pain comes from like talking too much, thinking that I'm going to decide, and that when we're able to elevate ourselves, to allow Hashem to guide us, allow Hashem to bring us on the journey for us, so then everything's enjoyable. Then there's the Tanukh. So this is the light of Shabbos, and this is really how we have enjoyable lives. So B'ezrat Hashem, l'chaim, l'chaim.